All right, this is a brief video to review with you what to do with documents when you face them on the test. When you take the Regents exam in June, there will be an extensive documents section. On the midterm exam that you'll be taking, we have a slightly shortened version of this because you have less time to finish the exam. On the notes that you can get on the OneNote notebook, there is a link here to a somewhat more extensive video that gives you a lot more detail about how to do this correctly. This will just be a sort of brief overview for you to know. I suggest you take a look at this when you get a chance, but for now, and certainly to get through the midterm, this should be helpful pointers. When you take the actual Regents exam, it will include 2 short essays, each with a pair of documents. On the midterm exam, we will do something similar, and I'll leave it at that. You will have a set of documents that will ask you to show the relationship between the 2 documents. You'll be given 2 documents, and you will have to write an essay on it that identifies the historical context of the documents, what it is they're talking about. You should be able to recognize that if it's a piece of the Declaration of Independence and a letter from George Washington, the historical context is the American Revolution, and these are being written after the United States has decided that the revolution is about independence, not merely a tax protest. Something like this. Specifically, you will have to name the relationship between these 2 documents. The relationships we're expecting to see, and the Regents is expecting, is one of 3. Cause and effect, turning point, similarity, and difference. Cause and effect is one document represents an action, event, or a choice by someone that causes the effect or the result that is represented by the other document. So, for instance, if we gave you, a piece of the Tea Act, remember that taxed tea, and then we gave you a depiction of the Boston Tea Party, well, the tax on the tea is causing the colonists to rebel and to protest by throwing the tea in Boston Harbor. Cause and effect. The second relationship the 2 documents might have is turning point. They represent the moment a major change is taking place in U.S. history in ideas, a cultural shift, a change in attitudes, or how life was lived, a kind of before and after. So, you might say, if we gave you what might it be? The declaration of war in the French and Indian War, and the call up of colonists to serve in the militia. Those 2 might represent a turning point in the colonies in North America, where suddenly Britain is going to expand to include all of North America. So before, Britain is just a little set of colonies along the coast, and after they win the French and Indian War, they win all of North America out to the Mississippi and all the area that includes Canada. So it's a turning point in the history there. Third relationship between the documents, similarity and difference. 2 events or 2 groups that are either similar, though they're perhaps from different time periods, or different attitudes or reactions to the same event or issue. So if you take something like, let's say, Shays' Rebellion, we remember that at the end of the American Revolution, you had Daniel Shays up in Massachusetts, who led a bunch of farmers in a revolt against the Massachusetts government. The rebellion was finally put down, if you remember, but it made everybody realize how weak the Articles of Confederation government was, and so people started talking about a constitution that would make a stronger federal government. Well, if I got a letter from John Adams and a letter from Thomas Jefferson, John Adams was absolutely against Daniel Shays and his lawless anarchists who were trying to tear down civil society and spread criminal activity, and we needed to put an end to this, so we need a strong federal government. If you look at Jefferson's letter, he would more likely say, and he actually wrote a letter about this, that, a little rebellion now and then is a pretty good thing. Maybe we have to be careful about a strong national government, and sometimes the folks rebelling out there, they kind of keep the government honest. Well, that's just two different views of how to deal with the same problem, Shays' Rebellion. So if we give you two documents, you want to see what's the relationship. Is one talking about a cause and the other the effect? Are they both talking about a turning point? It represents a moment of change? Or is it similarity and difference? Two different sides of the same event? Or similar ideas in different places? If I gave you a farmer protest against the Stamp Act before the Revolution and Daniel Shays' Rebellion after the Revolution, and they're both complaining about taxes being too high, two different time periods, two different events, but you can see a similarity between them. In any case, you must explain your evidence. You cannot just say, this causes that, or they're related by similarity. You have to give specific information that explains these documents. Point out something in each document that talks about the cause, and then the other document, specific evidence that it's talking about an effect. Don't just say they're similar. Tell me why they're similar. What are the similarities that you see? And you have to use some kind of outside information to discuss this, something that shows that you know what they're talking about, what's the event, what's the context, what's going on around it, that demonstrates you actually know what this is. When the reader grades your answer, he or she will assign it a grade out of 5 based on that criteria. On the midterm exam, the numbers are going to be a little bit different from the 5, but it's the same idea. Remember, cause and effect. Cause refers to something that contributes to the occurrence of an event. Effect refers to what happens as a result, the outcome, the impact of the event. Turning point refers to a major event or an idea or historical development that brings change. We've talked about, for instance, the cotton gin. The cotton gin itself was a turning point. If we gave you two documents, both of which relate to, let's say, the patent, the drawings and design for the original cotton gin, and then a discussion of some guy talking about it being used on his plantation, that represents, you should know, a turning point in the South, because all of a sudden the South goes from growing very little cotton to being all about growing cotton. They grow almost nothing else. And slavery goes from being on the decline to suddenly having a big burst, because now we need those slaves for the cotton plantations. And of course, similarity and difference should be pretty obvious to you. They're alike or they are not alike. Also, on the midterm, and certainly as part of the Regents exam, you're going to have to assess the reliability of the documents as historical sources. It's not so much are they reliable, it's more what are they reliable for. So a campaign poster, let's say, for Thomas Jefferson running for president and what a great super guy he is, may not be reliable as an assessment of whether he's a good guy or not. Obviously, it's somebody trying to convince people to vote for him. So they're gonna be biased in that sense. On the other hand, it is a reliable piece of information about the fact that he ran for president at all, and he must have had some supporters out there. So it doesn't tell you how good a guy he was, but it is evidence that he did have supporters. So that's what you think about. Don't just think about that this document is true or false. Think about what real information does it give you that you can be sure of. How do you determine that? Well, you look at the following things. The audience for whom the document is written. Does this affect its reliability? If you write a letter home, if you have a soldier who writes a letter home after a battle, if they're writing home to mom, they might minimize how dangerous it was because you don't want to scare mom. If they're writing home to the girlfriend, they might want to play up how dangerous it was because they think, oh, that'll make her think I'm a real hero. So how reliable are the facts in it? Who is it being written for? If it's an officer writing that letter to his commander, it might be more objective, therefore in one sense more reliable, because he's laying out the facts in a report of the battle. On the other hand, you then get into a problem of point of view. A commander of a battle will have one point of view of that battle. He'll see the whole battlefield and the big picture. But he may not understand what the battle looked like to an average soldier and how it felt. An average soldier might feel or see even facts on the ground that are different from what the commander sees. So the commander looks at the battlefield and sees a victory. Is that true? Well, yeah, his army won. A soldier looks at the battlefield and sees a bloody horror show. Is that true? Yeah, even though that side won, he's looking around and his buddies are getting shot up. So their point of view of what that battle looks like, let's just say, is part of this picture. And I should point out, what is the opinion of the author? What is the perspective? Place from where he or she is viewing the event. You want to think about purpose of the document. Is the purpose to convince somebody that you got the right idea, in which case you're probably going to leave out things that don't make you look right? Is the purpose to be a merely objective report? So if my purpose in writing, let's say, a letter from the battlefield is to get a medal, I'm going to play myself up as a great hero. If the purpose of my letter is simply to explain to the supply officer how we used up so much ammunition and now we need more ammunition, it might be more objective and statistical. So the purpose of the document matters. And finally, the bias. How one-sided is the document? If you are a smart and good general, you look at the battlefield and yeah, you won, but you also want to see the parts that you were weak in and how you almost lost. And so you're going to give both sides of, well, we did well in this, but not so well in that. If, on the other hand, you're writing a piece to boost the home folks and make them proud of your army, you're going to leave out anything that didn't go well on that battlefield and just talk about the heroism. So who are you writing for? The audience. Why are you writing it? The purpose. from where are you looking at an event, point of view, and how complete, how both sides, how full picture is that document, or how much is it really only telling one side of the story intentionally. You've got to evaluate it. So again, don't think yes, no, is, isn't. And I should put maybe true, true, false. Think more, it is more or less, greater or lesser degree. So when you think about reliability of a source, here you've got a little chart I threw into the notes: audience, point of view, bias, purpose. If I were you, I might make a little memory device. APBP. That's pretty good. APBP, and then write it down the side of the document and try to remember A, audience, P, point of view, B, bias, P, purpose, and then look at that document from each of those to assess its reliability. So, think about that, and use documents that you have in your textbook and the various exercises to try out, figuring out, first of all, the reliability of the document, audience, purpose, point of view, bias, more or less reliable, and why. That's the big thing. Can't just say it's more reliable, less reliable. You got to tell me why. What makes it so? And second, if you've got two documents, you want to think about, are they related? One is cause, one is effect, or the two of them represent a turning point, or they're two similar situations, or they're two different points of view on a situation. Okay, we'll leave that there.